is the Thriving Dentist Show with Gary Takis, where we help you develop your ideal dental practice, one that provides personal, professional, and financial satisfaction.
Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Dentist Show. I'm Gary Takis, your podcast co-host. Today's episode is titled The Future of Private Practice, a glance into the crystal ball. I'm going to share some thoughts with you about how I see our future unfolding, and I think you'll be very interested in these insights. But before I get to those, we have a couple announcements to make. Announcement number one is coming up shortly after this episode is published. We have our final Thriving Dentist live stream MBA workshop. This is on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of May. It's 9 hours of CE spread out over 3 evenings, 3 hours an evening. I mean, Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night, May 15th, 16th, and 17th. Now, a little bit of back history. We made the decision internally that we would sunset this MBA workshop at the end of 2022. However, we didn't really announce it to the profession. We just decided, okay, that was the last one. And then a lot of dentists started looking at the calendar for 2023 when they could take the Thriving Dentist MBA workshop. When we told them we were no longer doing it, we had a number of requests from dentists saying, hey, would you mind doing it one more time? I really wanted to take it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Would you just do it one more time? So we said, sure. So I've completely updated it to 2023. It's the Thriving Dentist live stream MBA workshop. I'll cover the 10 elements of a thriving practice, the 24 systems for a thriving practice, the 7 goals of a thriving practice, and how to achieve all of those, how to really develop your practice to full potential. Essentially, you'll have the equivalent of a dental MBA after attending those 9 hours of CE. If you'd like to register for that, go to thrivingdentist.com/MBA. And this is the last chance. So come join us if you're interested. If you want to have the practical equivalent of a dentist MBA, come join us. I can assure you it will be time well spent. The second announcement that I have is we have a returning top clinical tip from Dr. Nimar Satori. And he is going to talk about how digital technology is changing dentistry. Another cool tie-in to our topic today about the future. You'll enjoy this top clinical tip from Dr. Nimar Satori.
Hello, Gary. I appreciate the opportunity to provide the Thriving Dentist community with another clinical tip. I'm Nimar Satori. I'm a former associate professor and co-director of the advanced program in operative and adhesive dentistry at the University of Southern California. Currently, I'm in the last year of my prosthodontic residency program at University of Florida College of Dentistry. Today, I'm excited to talk a little about the amazing ways that digital technology is transforming the field of dentistry. As a dentist, I have seen firsthand the incredible benefits that digital technology can bring to our patients, from diagnosis to a more accurate treatment plan and a better overall outcome. Let's start with patient education. Digital technology makes it possible to show the patients exactly what their tissue and dental tissues look like using tools such as digital x-rays, intraoral cameras, and intraoral scannings. By using this technology, we can help our patients better understand their dental issues and make informed decisions about their treatment options. This, in turn, leads to a more engaged patients who are more likely to take actions and an active role on their own dental care. When it comes to diagnosis, digital technology has revolutionized our field too. Digital imaging technologies such as digital x-rays and cone beam CTs are essential tools for diagnosis, dental and oral diseases. These technologies provide highly detailed images that allowed us to even see the finest details on the teeth or details on the bone of the maxilla and mandible. This It can be combined with computer-aided detection and computer-aided diagnosis to analyze these images to identify patterns that indicate dental and oral diseases. Additionally, with the introduction of artificial intelligence, we can also assist us on diagnosis, overall omission of errors while analyzing these images, have a second opinion from the AI, and help us to achieve a more predictable treatment outcome and improve case acceptance and clinical efficiency. So, in addition to what I already told you, digital technology also is a game changer when it comes to treatment planning. By using digital images combined with 3D models from the intraoral scan and CBCTs and DICOM files, we can create highly accurate and personalized treatment plans that are tailored to each patient's specific needs. We can also use this digital technology to simulate different treatment options, allow us in conversation with patients to choose the best course of action for our patients. This will lead to a more effective treatment plan and a more predictable outcome. Finally, digital technology also is transforming the field of manufacture, restorations, and dental appliances. We can use CAD/CAM technology to fabricate in-house dental restorations such as crowns, veneers, bridges, onlays, inlays in a single appointment. This eliminates the need of multiple appointments, temporary restorations, and we can also use the 3D printing and milling technology to create dentures, to create occlusal guards and retainer more quickly and effectively. In conclusion, digital technology is transforming the field of dentistry in amazing ways. By embracing this technology, we can provide our patient with a better quality and more accurate diagnosis, a more personalized treatment plan, and a more efficient treatment. As dentists, it's our responsibility to stay updated to the last digital technologies and incorporate them in our practice to provide the highest quality of care to our patients. Gary, I hope this clinical tip helps the Thriving Dentist podcast listeners. Thank you again for the opportunity to share another clinical tip with your audience. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Thriving Dentist Coaching in Action segment. First, I want to take a minute to thank Dr. Satori, Nima Satori. He is a returning expert, and we love his tips. And it's only timely that he gave us this tip, the tip around how digital technology is changing dentistry. Thank you, Dr. Satori, for that. I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm sure our listeners will as well. As your co-host, I'm really excited about this topic, the future of private practice, a glance into the crystal ball. As we all know, we all are feeling like technology is going to change the future in ways we can't even imagine today. Of course, we all have probably heard of ChatGPT and perhaps how it might eliminate a lot of jobs. I mean, literally everything from programmers to you name it, all kinds of jobs may get eliminated. Maybe not tomorrow, but in the next, less than a decade. So it's a time of change. So Carrie, having been in dentistry for 42 plus years, has seen things and seen the world of dentistry change. And of course, he works with the best of the best all across the country. So he also knows what's happening on the ground. And also he's a tech nut. I guess it's something that he wears proudly on his sleeves because he loves to keep up with technology and always, leverage technology, of course, in his personal life and also for his clients. So this is going to be a fascinating episode where Gary is going to kind of look forward and share his insights. Also, he's looking at what's happening in other countries, not just in the US. So he's looking at all kinds of things. He's going to share what he sees happening 5, 10, 15 years down the road in dentistry. also, as always, is going to make it actionable. So in other words, how do you take these trends and hopefully ride it or benefit from it for your own sake, for your patient's sake, and of course, your team's sake? So Gary, take it away. I'm really excited about today's episode.
Well, Naren, I'm going to start with just a statement that I want everyone to hear right at the beginning of this. And that is that I see the future as very bright and very positive for dentistry. However, you may need to pivot in the style of practice you have to see the future as bright and positive. But I'm very much an abundance thinker, and very much of the mindset that the future can be extremely bright if you're willing to do the right things. Most of you will know that I'm a champion of private practice dentistry, and I love our profession. You know, I love dentistry because we have the ability to change people's lives every day. And Naren, that never goes out of style. You know, that while things may change, that, you know, changing people's lives is something that is to be revered and respected and appreciated now and in the future. But I want to start by also looking at things very candidly and very directly. And I want to look at two very specific trends. One trend is the fastest growing segment today in dentistry is corporate dentistry. Any way you look at it, that's the fastest growing trend in dentistry is corporate dentistry. Basically, what is happening is in the business world, in the finance world, they call this roll-ups. Roll-ups. You know that term roll-ups?
Yes, yes.
You know, all we have to do is look back at other professions and perhaps other healthcare professions and look at some roll-ups. You know, one of the ones that stands out for me is the field of optometry.
Mm.
You know, what happened in optometry? It used to be, if I go back to, say, my parents' generation, there was a local hometown optometrist that you went to.
Yes, yes.
And what happened?
He's gone.
They disappeared because they all got rolled up into these corporate optometry operations.
Yes, yes.
Let me give another example, Naren. There used to be a local pharmacist.
Yes.
That we would go to.
Yes.
You know, it was down in the corner, and we'd go to local pharmacists where often they would do compound, you know, they would compound ingredients to create an elixir that would solve your problems.
Yes.
And what now happens, where are the pharmacists today?
They work for big chains. I mean, pharmacies that own 1,000, 2,000 locations.
Right. Essentially, what those roll-ups have done is they have commoditized those services.
Yes. It's almost like you are an employee as opposed to you are a clinician who takes care of people.
You made it a commodity.
Commodity.
Yeah. Made it a commodity. So let's look at, let's be candid and look at this with our eyes wide open. The fastest growing segment of dentistry is the corporate side of dentistry. And what they're doing is they're buying up traditionally mom and pop kind of practices and rolling them up into a corporate entity.
Yes.
And, you know, they're doing very well at it. The financial community is smitten with dentistry. They absolutely love dentistry. Private equity loves dentistry, and they're going to keep rolling up practices. So that's happening. Another thing that I want to concurrently at the same time, another thing is happening is PPO plans are absolutely working on commoditizing dentistry. In their view, a crown is a crown is a crown. A filling is a filling is a filling. A new patient appointment is the same regardless of where you go. That's their view. How do I know that's the case, Naren? Because they pay the same thing everywhere.
Yes.
With no regard to whether there's any differences.
Yeah. You could use technology. They don't care.
They literally don't care. They don't care. It's this is how much we're going to pay you. And they are commoditizing dentistry. And I believe that if you continue to stay participating with the PPO plans, it is a flat out race to the bottom. It's a race to the bottom. All I have to do is recount to you the fact that PPO plans are cutting your fees. They're reducing your fees. You know, even in the face of double-digit inflation, in the face of rising expenses, they're lowering the fees they're paying you for the service rather than increasing the fees. There are PPO plans in the country that haven't had a fee increase since 2009. I know of another one that hasn't had a fee increase since 2007. Naren, can you imagine working in any business where you wouldn't have had a raise since 2007?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, right? Even like think of the recent inflation recycle, and you go to a restaurant, they're charging you 30% more at least. I mean, every single restaurant that I go to today is, many of them are even 40-50% more than what it used to be pre-pandemic. And that's because their costs have gone up. Their labor costs are up. Their ingredient costs are up. Everything is up. So they have to pass it on. Now, if you're a dentist, especially a PPO dentist, you can't do it. You are stuck by the fee.
Well, you can. You just have to take a big haircut in your income.
Yes.
You're just getting a big haircut on this.
Yeah, because you're charging the same amount to your patients, but your expenses are up. So you're getting a big haircut.
Expenses are up. Your income's down because they're paying you less.
Right.
And if I get my crystal ball out, Naren, I don't actually have one, but if I had one, if I had a crystal ball, I see us very much going down the path in dentistry in the way dentistry is in England. I've had the privilege of traveling extensively in the United Kingdom, lecturing, throughout the UK. And if we look at dentistry in England, there's two styles of practice in England. There is the largest group, 2/3 of the practices are NHS, National Health Service practices. Who sets the fees in those NHS practices, Naren?
Definitely not the dentist, probably the government, right?
The government sets the fee.
Yeah.
They set the fee.
Right. And it's the same fee pretty much.
It's the same fee.
Yeah.
And 2/3 of the practices are NHS. I would say the equivalent to those would be PPO practices. It would be their version of PPO.
Right.
Where the fees are set by another entity. They're not set by the dentist.
Right. Here it's the insurance company. There it's the government. But
right.
Either ways, you have no control.
Now, 1/3 of the practices in England are private practice dentists. And from what I'm told by my English friends, and I have a wonderful cross-section of English friends, and many are regular working class folks. And what they tell me is that anybody that can go to a private practice will go there. Anybody that can, if they can figure out how to put together the resources to go to private practice, they will.
Yeah.
Because they want to avoid receiving care in the NHS practices.
Yeah, it's like the lowest common denominator care or excellent care. So you choose.
Yeah, it's quality care or lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
And I see the same thing happening here.
Actually, Gary, even in Canada, I think exactly the same thing is going to happen.
True.
It's just moving in that direction.
You're moving in that direction as well. Well, and of course you're influenced by England. You have historic influence, yes. And you're being influenced that way as well. Sure, but I think that's what's going to happen here. If I get my crystal ball out, there will be practices that say, "Well, I don't have any choice, and woe is me. I can't do anything about it. I don't like these PPO plans, but I don't have a choice. So I'm going to just get in line, and I'm going to be a pharmacist that now goes to work for Walgreens."
Right.
You'll be the dental version of the pharmacist, or the independent optometrist that goes to work for the optometrist in a box.
Can I share a personal story, Gary? And it might make sense. So I have my cousin who lives in the UK. He used to own, those gas stations. But the way it works in the UK, at least the one that he was associated with, is it's almost not even like a franchise, but pretty much you're a licensee. So they give you the benefit to use their logo and do it. And what they do is every single year they squeeze you. They let this fee, that fee, this fee, that fee. So his income was, let's say, 100,000 pounds 3 years ago. Little by little goes to 80 and 70 and 60. And the reason is they have all the control. So you don't like it? Take a hike. I'll find somebody else. It's kind of sad, but it's just, that's what happens when you have a single entity calling the shots.
Right. Well, you're absolutely right, Naren. And when you have someone setting your fees other than yourself,
right?
You're the only one that should set your fees, in my opinion, because you know what your cost of doing business is. and you set your fees accordingly. When you let a third party set your fees, by the way, if that third party is only interested in commoditizing dentistry, then they're going to set those fees as low as they can get away with. And that's what they do. But I'm going to share a third trend that will hopefully allow you to see this in a different way. Despite what I just said about the fastest growing segment of dentistry is corporate dentistry, and the fact that dentistry is being commoditized by the impact of the PPO plans, there's never been a time in our history where people have been this interested in their health. Think about that, Aaron.
Yes.
Everyone, we read labels. We understand more about nutrition than we ever have. Gyms and health club memberships are all-time high members. People want to live long, healthy lives. And I think that plays in our favor because there's always going to be a segment of the population that want to keep their teeth their entire life, and they want to enjoy the benefits of great oral health throughout their life. And I believe that points the way for an opportunity. And I believe the best way to do that would be in a private practice setting, where you can set your fees, where you can attract people who are interested in what it is that you're offering. And in essence, break the pattern of the PPO plan that just wants to commoditize everything that you do. Break that pattern. And the best thing you could possibly do is successfully resign from those PPO plans. Develop a relationship-driven practice where people come to you because they know, like, and trust you. You're truly individual. I think it back to a throwback in a really positive way, to a generations ago when healthcare providers really knew their patients. Much of medicine has been commoditized, Aaron. There still are private practices in medicine, but most physicians don't work in a private practice. Where do most physicians work?
Most physicians work for some kind of a
company,
big organization. Yeah.
Some kind of an organization.
Yeah.
They work for a health network. They work for a hospital. They work for something.
Right.
And I think if you look at the dissatisfaction level among physicians, it's at an all-time high. Physicians are trying to get the heck out of that profession instead of enjoy, an entire career of doing what they were trained to do, which is to take care of people. So the cool news is you have a choice. A third of the practices in England are private practice, and they are absolutely thriving. Those third are thriving. I have many friends that are private practicing dentists in England, and they love what they do. They see the future is very bright. They love their patients. They are able to attract quality team members. They're able to embrace technology. They're able to charge a fair fee for the quality of care that they provide. And they're looking at dentistry from a glass is half full basis. Really the profession becomes a tale of two dentists. There's a dentist over here that feels like the future, it's done, it's over. I might as well just go sign up and go work for something. That's one side. There's another side that is saying, oh my gosh, I can spend my entire career changing people's lives. Which camp do you want to be in? Take as long as you like. I think I have an idea. How about if you join this camp over here in private practice? So I think if you truly embrace it, if you look at all the ways that you could have a practice that stands out and that people want to come to, that are drawn to a practice like yours, then the future is just as bright as it could be. So my crystal ball, that's the way it looks in my crystal ball, Aaron, that there's going to be further delineation and further segmentation, just like happened in optometry, just like happened in pharmacies. There's other healthcare areas that's happened with as well. Where you don't want to be, Aaron, is the messy middle. The messy middle is a place you do not want to be, because now you're going to get the income of the lowest possible model and higher expenses because you're trying to distinguish yourself. You don't want to be in the messy middle. Right. And that's where most PPO offices are that way. Doctors are still taking lots of CE. They're embracing technology, but everywhere they look, their fees are being cut. Right. And that's like the messy middle.
It's like the bulls do well and the bears do well, but the people in the middle get slaughtered.
They get absolutely slaughtered. So you don't want to be in. So, I mean, this is a time to be decisive.
So let me kind of make sure I understand and rephrase what I heard, Gary. So you're saying, and I agree with you, but I just want to make sure that I say it clearly, say it back to you clearly. You're saying there are those who will appreciate quality dental care, just like they appreciate quality food, quality health. They are the ones carrying all these devices, checking on their health, wearing an Apple Watch. And there are tens and tens and tens of millions of people who give a damn about their health and their well-being. And they will want excellent dental care. They don't want the lowest common denominator dental care. And it's already happening in other countries. Already it's happening in the US, but that's only accelerating. And then there are those that are on government mandated or PPO plan mandated health plans. And there it's all about the lowest common denominator. How can you do the same thing for half the price that you used to charge 10 years ago because your costs are up, but the payments are not keeping up?
That model is a race to the bottom. And I'm going
Right.
to politely suggest that's a race you do not want to win.
Right.
Because it's a booby price.
And the only people who can win that game is the ones with scale. That's where the DSOs come in, right? Because they have 3,000 locations, so they can negotiate and say, oh, I need better fees or cut my expenses by 50%.
They get economies of scale.
Exactly.
A simple way to say it, they get economies of scale that you'll never get as a solo practitioner or solo office. And as a result, they can compete in that space.
And that's exactly what happened in pharmacies, right? Because of this exact trend, only people who can survive are the ones with 1,000 locations, not that individual pharmacist.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Naren, we've got some great questions from our listeners to further dive into this topic, but there's the look into the crystal ball. But I want to bring it back full circle and say, you make the right decisions, the future is extremely bright, and you have the ability to have an extremely rewarding, a thriving practice, one that provides personal, professional, and financial satisfaction. You just have to make the right decisions.
Welcome back to the Thriving Dentist Q&A segment. Hope you enjoyed this Coaching in Action segment where Gary talked about the future of private practice, a glance into the crystal ball. Gary, I enjoyed it, and I have to agree, you are right on the money. And everything you're saying, like you said, is already happening in other countries, and it's just going to accelerate.
It's happening in other
further
professions
in
in other countries, and across other healthcare professions as well.
Exactly. So it's just a matter of that trend accelerating. So the question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to be the one who's going to get squeezed behind or left behind because you're squeezed? Or are you going to be the one who's going to take control and provide, world-changing dentistry to your patients?
Yeah.
Gary, let me ask the 4 questions that we have received from our audience. The first question is, I practice in a very competitive area. Is it possible to resign from these menacing PPO plans?
Yeah, we see that all the time, Naren. And in reality, there's competitive markets everywhere. And yet we've worked in my coaching work. We've helped over 400 practices successfully resign from PPO plans in every locational environment: urban, suburban, large town, medium-sized town, small town, rural, remote areas, company towns. The biggest example of a company town in my view right now is Seattle, Washington. Seattle has many employers, but there's 4 employers that dominate the landscape: Boeing Aircraft, Microsoft Computer and Software, Amazon has a massive operation, in the Seattle area, headquarters, a massive operation, and Starbucks. Now, not everybody that lives in Seattle works for one of those 4 companies, but they sure do dominate the landscape. And all 4 of those have PPO plans. And so many dentists in Seattle say, well, I could never do that here because, I've got so many patients that are Boeing. I've got so many patients that are, Microsoft, or I've got so many patients that are Amazon. I could never do that here. Well, I'll quote, I think it was Henry Ford that said, believe that you can, believe that you can't. Either way, you're right. Not everybody works for those people. How many people do you need to have a thriving practice? How many do you need? 2,000, 3,000, 1,500? I mean, you fill in that number. It depends on the size of your practice.
Right.
How many do you need? Can you find that many people in your area?
Absolutely. And I think half the people don't have insurance, more than half, right? So,
well, the universe of people that don't have dental insurance is larger than the universe of people that does. So if you're a statistician, why don't you go fish in the bigger pond? Fish in the pond for the people that don't have insurance.
Exactly.
Because then you're not being impacted by a plan because there's no network for them.
Right.
Yeah. That's a dirty secret the insurance companies don't want you to know.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, you can do that. I'm not going to suggest it's going to be easy in a competitive area, but you can absolutely do that. And I can only say that confidently because we've seen it done. We've seen it done everywhere. And it's not for everyone. If you don't give people a reason to come to your practice that's different than going to the doc in the box on the corner, then you're not going to be successful going out of network. But if you give people reasons to come to you, reasons that they can touch and feel, then there's an opportunity to be very successful in that in that niche, if you will. So yes, I want to be a voice of optimism for you and say yes, you can do it because we've seen it done.
Thank you, Gary. I listened to your episode about using demand as a way to decide when to drop PPO plans. I believe this particular person is referring to the last week's Less Insurance Dependence episode, which came out on the 4th of May. So you talk about...
Some of our listeners may not know, Naren, that we do a second podcast. So yes. Thriving Dentist Show is our flagship podcast. We've been doing this. I've been doing this since 2011. However, a little bit over 4 years ago, we started a second podcast called the Less Insurance Dependence Podcast. It's a more narrowly focused podcast, short format, 15 to 18 minutes long, once a week, every Thursday. And it's all about the tactical things to do to successfully resign from PPO plans.
Right. So I listened to your episode about using demand as a way to decide when to drop PPO plans. So this client is asking, or this listener is asking, how do I get more quality new patients?
Well, my answer is based on my experience, not only with LifeSmiles, but with our clients as well. I believe the best way to get new patients today in terms of most predictable, most repeatable way to do that is through organic search engine optimization, where you replace Delta as a source of new patients. And that's essentially what you're doing. If you're a preferred provider, you're in exchange for these ridiculously low fees, Delta lists you as a provider, on their digital network. So if someone's looking for a provider, they go to that digital network and they choose you. Now, the byproduct of that is you're subjected to a major tax in the form of a 45 to 50% discount that you've got to give to Delta to provide you with that patient.
Right.
And that just doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form economically, when you could spend a fraction of that, a small fraction of that amount, and replace Delta with Google. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to do it through organic search engine optimization. I mean, think how valid this is. If someone moves to your town and they don't know anybody, that's happening in communities all over the country. There's a big, I saw a segment on the news the other day about migration patterns of people moving all over now to seek a better quality of life, and they're moving all over. And if they move somewhere that they don't know anybody, how are they going to find a dentist? Well, they're going to turn Google from a noun into a verb. They're going to Google it.
Yes.
And if you get on page one, you've accomplished the first step of marketing, successful marketing in 2023, which is helping your ideal patients find you. They got to find you. Now they're going to find you on page one of a Google search. And then secondly, you got to give them a reason to choose you. And that is building a website that provides those reasons in abundance once they land on your website to say, oh, this is where I want to go. And that's really the best way to get new patients today. Naren, you're the expert on marketing. Add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, Gary. I mean, from an economic standpoint, at the end of the day, the reason all your clients are successful is either you spend 45% or 50% as a marketing fee, a kind of, within quotes, an invisible marketing fee that the PPO firm charges you for sending you that patient, or you spend less than 1.5% or sometimes even 1%. So when you have that extra money, you can invest in it. You can, spend more time with your patients. You're not like trying to do double the dentistry, with the same amount of time, because you don't have to. So it creates a like a VIP type experience, the experience that these people who appreciate quality crave for. So I do agree with you 100%. So I think that's the way to create demand. And like this person is alluding to, this podcast talked about, once you have demand, drop your plans, because you don't need PPO to send plans, because you're getting patients from other sources that are not PPO patients.
I mean, just from a very practical standpoint, if you're going to be successful resigning from PPO plans, you have to replace people you're going to lose, because you are going to lose some.
Right.
And secondly, you have to replace the historic flow that has come from those PPO plans. Like, for example, if Delta has historically provided you 20 new patients a month, and then the day you resign, they take you off of that, they delist you, you're no longer on that, then if we annualize that, that's 240 new patients a year you have to replace. And you can do that through Google, as we've seen done, time and time again with our clients. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll put a link to a marketing strategy meeting. If you need help to increase demand with Google SEO marketing, or even to review how well you are doing with Google, we'll spend 6 hours. I'm the CEO of Equa, so we'll do that at no charge for anybody who's listening. We'll spend 6 hours to go through your marketing and tell you how you're doing with Google and how you're doing with regards to your website. Also, we'll give you a 12-month plan to help you kind of do really well, meaning get into the top 5% of SEO. So we'll put the link. It's ekwa.com/MSM. And you can use that link to book a 90-minute marketing strategy meeting with Laila. I think, Gary, you did one of those 6 years.
I wanted to own it. When I learned in 2007 that I could own a practice in Arizona as a non-dentist, I wanted to own a practice so I could have a test kitchen, have a learning and teaching laboratory where I could test things out and I could share them with my clients and my audiences, whether it be here on the podcast or when I was speaking. And I have to tell you, this is such a good example of that, because we became an Equa client over 6 years ago. After we were proven that your results you did what you said you were going to do on time and on budget, I started referring you to my clients, and I've seen time and time again the same result, which has been a fantastic result. And I'd encourage our listeners to take advantage of that marketing strategy meeting. Find out for yourself.
Thank you, Gary. Yes, we'll put that link, and also we'll put that link to that episode the listener was alluding to. Let me ask you question number 3, Gary. 80% of my patients are PPO patients. Is there a way for me to systematically resign from PPO plans? So I assume this person is currently signed up with lots of PPO plans.
By the way, that's what we see. This is not uncommon. That doctor might be thinking, oh my gosh, I must be that one dentist that just has a ton of PPO patients. No. This is what we see most commonly. Because, Naren, if your source of new patients predominantly is the PPO plan being listed on, their network,
right?
Over time, you become overrun with PPO patients, because that's all you end up doing,
right?
Because your economics are squeezed. You can't spend money on other marketing, and you get all your patients from that source. So it's very unusual for us to see the opposite, where only a small percentage of the practice. I recently did have an outlier, Naren, a new client of ours. 22% of his patients were PPO patients. Very, very unusual. And yet he was fed up with 22%. He was fed up. But normally what we see is 70%, 75%, 80%, 85%. The highest we've ever seen is 97% PPO. So, doctor, at 80, I heard you say 80%, Naren, on the question?
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually really common. And the answer is yes, there is a systematic way to do it. We've developed a 6-step plan to successfully resign from PPO plans. It's a blueprint. It's 6 steps. And we did a Thriving Dentist Show episode on it. We'll put a link in the show notes. So if you go to thrivingdentist.com, find this episode, the crystal ball episode, and just scroll down, and we'll put a link to that 6 steps to successfully resign from PPO plans. It literally is a blueprint to follow. We've done it now hundreds of times, and it's a blueprint. And if you will just complete the items on your checklist, you'll be prepared to successfully resign from PPO plans. So no longer is it random, is it chance, is it a roll of the dice? Naren, if an architect designs a set of plans,
yes,
and it's been architecturally proven, engineeringly proven, and you follow the blueprint, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get that building.
Yes, you're going to get that building. It's
not going to be a mystery. It's going to be exactly like that, those plans.
Right.
Well, that's what this is. We've proven it time and time again. Now, of course, some of these can be adapted to your practice, but the plan remains the same.
I know, Gary, you offer sometimes for those who want your help, a conversation. I think you call it a coaching strategy meeting to see if you can be of service. But even in your coaching work, you use these 6 steps that you are alluding to this podcast as
we provide support and guidance through it.
Right.
But yeah, we use the 6 steps. You bet.
Right. Thank you, Gary. Let me ask you the last and the 4th question. I listened to your episode on the 6 steps, so this is interesting. The question is, which of the 6 steps in your mind is like the most critical?
Yeah, I feel they're all important because they all link to one another in terms of the cumulative effect.
So you're saying if you don't do all of 6 of them well, your results would not be optimal.
You'll be compromised.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, you'll get a result, but and perhaps acceptable, but it won't be optimized.
Right.
But I do want to answer the question because it was a very specific question. Which one's most important? I kind of feel like they're all important, but let me answer the question. I feel like step number 5, which is to elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice, is most important, because the more relationship-driven you are, the less likely it is that a patient's going to leave. They just don't want to leave when they're being taken care of by people who they know, like, and trust. So I want you to elevate that. If you already feel like you're an A on the report card, I want you to become an A+. If you feel like you're a B+, then I want you to become an A+. So the more relationship driven you are, the more likely you are to be successful at this, because you're providing something unique. Now, right behind it, almost like right behind it, as I'm going to call it the second most important step, but I could argue that it is equally important as that elevating the relationship driven aspect, is develop your marketing plan, because you've got to replace people you're going to lose. You have to replace them. You got to replace the ones you're going to lose because they want to go to an in-network provider. And then you got to replace the historic flow of the patients that have historically come in from the PPO plans. But if you do those 2, all 6 are important, but those 2 I would highlight as 1 and 2, but with 2 right on its heels, if that makes any sense, man.
Absolutely, Gary. Thank you so much. I have one last question. It's from me, Gary. It's not from our audience. So if I'm listening to this episode, I'm a dentist, I own a practice. And let's say I'm a PPO practice. Let's say I'm one of those practices that have 70% PPO patients. Can you give me some homework, something to think about?
Yeah, I would absolutely encourage you to peek under the tent at over time, resigning from those PPO plans. It can be actually done fairly quickly. I was asked recently, Naren, Gary, I'm impatient as a newer client. I'm impatient. How long do you think it's going to take me to do this? And I need to provide a little bit of detail for you. This is a practice that had 8 PPO plans. Now, that's a decent number, but I've seen a lot more than that. I've seen 20, 30, 40 PPO plans. So this office had 8. But that's more than having 1 or 2. So there's a little bit more complexity involved. And I said, if you're willing to do the work and work your way through those 6 steps, you could be successfully out of network by the end of the year. And this was a conversation we were having in March of 2023. So you can actually go through this pretty quickly. But some things that I would start doing is, first of all, listen to those 6 steps, because once you know what those 6 steps are, you can literally just break them down one at a time and kind of systematically work your way through that. That's where I would start. I would also schedule a marketing strategy meeting, because you'd be well on your way to that second step, which is master marketing. Find a way to replace the ones you're going to lose, and then you'll be well on your way, operating from a position of strength, because you will have already replaced the people that you're going to lose with another source. So that's where I'd start. Naren, as we wrap this one up,
maybe even subscribe to the Less Insurance Dependence podcast, because you are sharing lots of tips.
That's free. There's almost 250 episodes. I think we're at 230 something. Makes great. It's short format. You can play that content. You can use it for training with your team. You can add more knowledge and information for you. And hey, if you'd like help with this, go to thrivingdentist.com. /CSM. That stands for Coaching Strategy Meeting. We are accepting new clients, and I'd love the chance to work with you if that was your wish, to help you successfully kick those PPO plans to the curb. And get in the camp that is looking at the future with a set of shades on, because the future is bright if you do the right things. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, The Future of Private Practice, a glance into the crystal ball. Think about what I said about other healthcare professions being impacted this way. We talked a little bit about optometry. We also talked a little bit about what's happening on the pharmacy side. Doesn't have to be that way in dentistry. In dentistry, I believe the future is very bright if you choose to really develop a relationship-driven, patient-centered private practice. I believe the world's your oyster. Well, on that note, thank you, Naren, for helping me host this. Thank you and your team for all that you do for our profession by helping dentists attract quality new patients. I also want to thank all of our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you know someone that might be interested in my crystal ball forecast, please share this episode with them. And if you haven't hit subscribe in whatever podcast directory you listen to, hit subscribe. That means every Wednesday when we upload a new episode, it'll be automatically uploaded to your listening device for your convenience. On that note, thank you for the privilege of your time. Here's to your future. And here's to you developing an incredibly successful practice that you can look back on and you can leave a legacy around, and know that you have spent your work life was well spent. Here's to your future. Thanks so much.